Okay, meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, please, sir. I would like to add item L, which will be the selectmen countersign the RSU 21 election warrant for January 21st, 2014.
Anything else?
That is all.
Okay.
Can we make a motion we approve as amended?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor? Okay, public forum. What do you think?
Anything to say, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Okay, moving right on. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Velma noted that Rex forgot to put who was present. Our computer was down, so I did it from scratch, and I forgot to ask who was present. So I will add
Neither did
that.
I.
Everyone.
And under C,
Everyone.
fire chief's name.
Yeah.
I didn't think for me to look at it.
No, I didn't even catch it.
Speaking of fire chief, they kind of messed that up on the page.
Yeah. It was the fire chief.
I don't know who's in charge of that website, but I know it's not me, so.
Yeah.
Make a motion we approve the minutes of October 28th as amended.
Second. All in favor? Committee board reports.
Planning board will meet with the comp planning committee and the EDC and the board of selectmen should they choose to attend. That'll be on the 14th, which is Thursday at 7 p.m.
I think it's 7:30.
Yeah, the planning board starts at 7 p.m. with a public hearing, and then the joint meeting will start at 7:30. This is to discuss the zoning district changes in regards to the planning board's plans for changes to land use. So it's kind of everybody to get on the same board and know what everybody's doing. I did not put the board of selectmen or the EDC on the agenda, but they are welcome to attend.
Moving on to new business. Results of the election relative to the camper trailer temporary occupancy ordinance.
Yes, there was a vote, and there were 292 yeses, 202 noes, and 3 blanks. We have a new temporary occupancy ordinance in regards to camper trailers. Jim and I are meeting on this tomorrow morning to discuss currently known violators of the ordinance and to get some legal opinion from Leah on if there's any grandfathering that's allowed in those kind of uses. So we'll have an update for the next selectmen's meeting on how those processes work. We are aware of two cases that are there's no discretionary judgment involved. We know people are living in the camper trailer, so those we're going to start with.
Public hearing, there was at least 2 other ones that we didn't know about.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take stock in those. Once again, it'll go with most code enforcement violations where it'll be a complaint-driven process because we can't have Jim counting days out there, but he can rely on the public to help him out. Are there any questions in regards to the temporary occupancy ordinance?
So now that the ordinance has passed, if someone knows of a violation, they should get in touch with Jim to file a complaint?
Yes.
Okay.
Or just have Jim investigate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bring it to his attention.
Yeah, okay. Even though he might already know about it, I mean, they really, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. The more, well, it doesn't take the most complaints, but, you know, the more information he has, the easier it makes the process for him.
Okay, item B is the town manager's request for permission to proceed with credit card / debit card acceptance at town hall. All fees being passed on to the end user, friend's customer, in conjunction with AndroPay.
We are currently do our banking with Androscoggin Bank. They offer this service to any of their customers, but we're a town under contract with them for banking services. There's no fee per transaction to us. The fee per transaction gets passed on to the end user, and there's no setup fees either. I have to meet with Peggy Anderson from Androscoggin Bank to get all the information, so long as the board is okay with proceeding. The last time we discussed this, it was discussed that if there were no fees that were passed on to the general public, that it would be acceptable. And we do get regular comments about people who would like to see debit and credit card transactions available. I don't know if they will have the same opinion of that when they see the fees associated with it, but I would like to move forward and bring that information on to the board. Questions, comments? $3.95 for a flat fee for a debit card, and then 2.95, I think, is the percentage for credit card transactions.
How are we gonna notify people? Every time somebody shows a card, we're gonna tell them, or? if
There'll be a
something-
notice,
something out
blanket
there,
notice
let them
at
know.
town hall,
Yeah.
letting people know.
Yeah.
And they will, on their receipt, it will indicate to them that they are responsible for the fees.
Before they use the card as well.
Yeah.
I understand they're gonna get a 3% plus or minus.
Yeah, we'll put some big,
Yeah.
table,
Table, yeah.
get those taken care of. So with your permission, I will proceed with that. Any objections to credit cards being accepted?
I don't like Andrew Pay. but
Yes.
Isn't that a steroid?
Next time I'll say Andrew.
I mean, if there is an Andrew, it's a steroid. Why would you do
I can tell you that when you look at my checkbook,
Yeah.
it's Town of Rundle. That's it. Town of Rundle is the only place that I write a check to.
Otherwise, it's debit.
I don't usually write a check to Town of Arundel. I usually let my bank write the check because I pay it through bill pay.
Okay.
But normally is debit is charged to the company. If you go into a store, you don't pay fees on debit, right?
Typically, that would be charged. The people taking the credit card will get charged that fee.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you use a credit card at Sam's Club, they get charged 2.5%, and they consider that a cost of doing business. So, but yes, somebody always ends up paying that fee.
Okay, is the board okay with that? No harm, no foul, it seems to me.
What about the machine? Nothing?
Nope, no charge whatsoever. They
Software,
provide everything for us. Software is already there and available. They just have to format it to our accounting software, but that's included in the cost as well. So, free and clear.
That's a no-brainer.
Okay. The town manager wants authorization to sign a contract for the bundled billing for the ambulance services per the Comstar recommendation.
I spoke to Rick Martin from Comstar, had a discussion about why the fees in other communities were higher. He said it's based on level of service, it's based on number of calls and population. He said that he feels that with this recommended rate not going any higher than this, because going any higher would experience the same percentage. If we go with these rates, we should experience, and he didn't guarantee anything, but a 5 to 7% increase in what we're collecting now for the ambulance. And he said that Medicare, Medicaid, and other insurance companies pretty much expect this kind of billing nowadays. So the rates they're comparable to the rates that we're charging now individually, but these are the rates that he recommended that we accept, and indicated that we may or may not experience better collections in this process.
Okay, so we'll need a motion, I guess, to authorize the town manager to sign this, for lack of a better word, contract, I guess, authorization to charge these bundled rates.
This is strictly ambulance street. We're not including, Chief had mentioned something about billing automobile accidents, use of extrication equipment.
No, but that stuff needed more. I need to gather more information from other communities to see if they're actually getting anything out of that. So this is just for what we're billing EMS now.
And that rate sheet that we shot there, we had the last meeting.
That's right.
I'll make that a motion.
Second.
The motion made, seconded to authorize the town manager to.
Oh, sorry, Jason,
Oh, that's right,
apologize.
you probably should.
I'll second.
Yeah,
So motion was made by Velman, now it's seconded by Dan.
yeah.
Okay. to authorize the town manager to sign the a la carte bundle retrans position charges, I guess. I don't know, whatever it is.
We're just bundling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All in favor of that? Janet, 4 yes, and 1 abstention. Okay, next item is D, is to, we have a letter here from Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Scrabble Farm LLC. Not exactly sure what he's looking for, but,
He's looking apparently to get the ordinances changed, but Jim has been very clear to him that that's a process that has to be followed through. So right now, Jim and Mark are trying to determine whether or not a tarp over the sign will cover the fact that he has a sign that is not conforming. So they're back and forth right now. He wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. Apparently was not aware that there was a sign ordinance.
didn't you need a permit to put some sign?
He wouldn't need a permit, but yes, he was not aware. So, had he come in and applied for a permit, he would have been given the information as to how big the sign could be. So, he asked that I pass this on to all the board members. As I said, we've let him know that there is a process to go through. If he wants the ordinances changed, he's more than happy to follow that. More than
Welcome.
welcome to follow that. But that the board was, I did not believe the board was going to step in and take the action on this. So he and Jim are working together to try to make this work.
I mean, it is a nice looking sign. I did go down and it's funny because as many times as I've been by there, I never noticed the sign, so.
It's just recently been put up within the
Yeah, the
last
sign's
couple
been
weeks.
maybe
Just a little bit before we did the sidewalk.
Yeah, I think that week actually.
Yeah, I did get a call from him.
Yeah.
He left me a voice message.
You're the go-to guy, it sounds like, on these calls.
No, he called me too.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
And I never called him back, but, because I figured,
So the planning board went through a major process with the businesses
Oh, yeah.
to determine the sign
all right, but the
ordinance.
planning board never, that's a residential area.
Yes.
So the planning board never looked at changing the sign for the residential area. So, I mean, his course of action is to, there's 3 steps to go and change that sign. And one of them is to have us do it, but, you know, I mean, I would say, if he wants to change it,
I have a question. I mean, he does have a nice, with the picture up there of the bull. What if that was up on either side of his driveway so that he was driving through it like it was a gate? In other words, there with the picture up there of the cow or whatever it is that's up there,
Yep.
that wouldn't be considered a sign. That would just be part of a gate going into his business.
It would still be considered a sign though, because his business is on there.
No. Just
she's separating
the
it.
post. I'm separating.
Oh, just the posts?
Just the posts.
Yep.
The thing across, I
Yeah.
mean, like the ranches out
Yeah,
west.
that he could do.
Drive with the picture of the animal up there. That would be,
That's Yogi, by the way.
oh, well, with Yogi's picture up there. Then he'd have 6 feet to do his sign, and he'd have his animal up there on his gateway.
That's a creative solution. Let me talk to him and see if that'll work.
I mean, if he's gonna have a ranch there, then,
Might as well look like one.
yeah.
All right.
Okay. So we'll leave it to Mr. Bennett to pursue whatever he wants to, or not.
Absolutely.
Okay, item E is to update us on the discussion with Ben Medor regarding Route 1 property. And the requirement that we have to place the sale of it on the town meeting warrant.
Yes, and I did speak with Mr. Medor. He was very understanding of the fact that we weren't interested in using that piece of property. He said there'd be no need to put any kind of clause for competition in there. He welcomes competition. He thinks it's the healthiest thing since apples. So he had absolutely no problem. He even made a side comment that he'd be more than happy to bid on it again to get it back from us. So that isn't an issue. What we would have to do is on the town meeting warrant in June, place this item with asking permission to issue a warranty deed or whatever type of deed the board decides to go with, asking the inhabitants to authorize us to issue a deed and to put the property for sale, and then allowing the town to place those monies into the municipal building reserve. We don't have the ability to sell the property without going to a town meeting vote, because the catch-all warrant articles that we do every year don't address. This was a gift. We can receive gifts, but we have no means to dispose of those gifts should the town not want to. The deeds belong to the inhabitants of the town of Arundel, and so we need to ask their permission to sell, to issue that deed. And so that's where we'll head down on that route. When it comes closer to town meeting, maybe February, we'll address how we want to word it, and if the board is interested in placing that on the market.
Would it be worth creating an ordinance so that we don't have to have a town meeting in the future for situations like this? I mean, is it?
I don't
We
think
couldn't do that.
Couldn't do
No,
it.
we can't, we don't have to.
That's illegal.
The town could, voters could authorize us to in fact sell property in the best interest of the town, like we can sell tax-acquired property. There is a catch-all ordinance, catch-all article in the warrant every year that allows it, but it's confined to tax-acquired property, not to property we acquire by other methods. But we can consider an article that says that, not that this issue comes up very
Right.
often.
We replace a blanket.
Right.
Right, that way there, it could happen anytime.
Every year, we just have the authority where we can have a piece of property we want to dispose of. I mean, we do have other pieces of property here, so.
We certainly do.
Can you do that specifically, though, for like catch-all? I thought, it's,
I don't know why we couldn't. If they want to authorize us to do it, the best interest of the town, get the best price. I don't know, take a look.
I will,
Yeah.
I'll
that would be an
check with MMA on that.
Or warranty deed, where you have to
Well, I
sell.
don't know about warranty deed, but we don't have to sell by a warranty deed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We
The
can
warranty deed, we would have to have.
We can give a release deed, and people just have to understand that's what we're good for the town, that's all. We give them what we have.
Do we have a warranty deed on your property? You gave it to us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So,
We had a special town meeting to accept the warranty deed.
so I would think in that instance, we would want to also be able to do that, would make the property more valuable.
Absolutely. So quick claim deed, and it usually turns out maybe a little messy and then pays much.
At what point in time are we gonna have somebody just give us a rough idea on what it's worth?
On that property, I'm waiting to hear, I'll address that in G, but I'm waiting to hear back from Doris Cooler on the size of the property that she wants to sell to the town, and then I'm gonna get an appraiser to do an appraisal on all three properties.
Okay, item F is to update us, board on the status of town hall architectural plans, and schedule a meeting with Ryan, is it Centaur?
Yes. Meeting with Ryan and Will Conway on Thursday. After the discussion we had the last time, we're gonna give Will a file of both the properties that are being considered so that he can do a rudimentary sketch of what's on the property and where he would recommend siting the building. Ryan is supposed to have a first draft of the plans for the building that from the space needs analysis on Thursday as well. And he would like to know what night of the week, if we can schedule it right now, that'd be great, but he would like to have a separate meeting as a workshop to meet with the selectmen to go over his rendition and see if there's any changes before we move forward. And what the plan is to come to an agreement with the Board of Selectmen as to the best siting of that with Will's input, so that when we go out to have the questionnaire put out, and so people can come to town hall and have something to look at, so that they have an idea of what's going on. So Will and Ryan and the board will meet to see, Will's, like I said, it's not going to be a complete engineering design of that property. He's just going to do a rudimentary so people know where the properties are, so they have something in mind as they're trying to make their decision, as we ask, questionnaire, have the survey go out so people know what to think about as we move forward. They would like to have a meeting if you were available next week or the week after Thanksgiving. If you have a night available next week, Monday night's usually the best, because that's usually when the selectmen's meetings are. After that, the beginning of December would be when they'd be available. So it would what's today? 18th or the, I think, 2nd, was it?
18th, 25th.
The 18th, the 25th is a regular meeting. There's going to be a lot on that agenda, or December 2nd. Is everybody available on the 18th that you're aware of?
Everybody all right?
All right. Is yours the 18th? Beautiful.
7 o'clock here,
Yes, ma'am.
and you'll send us out some notices to remind those of us who forget when they write things down.
November, yes. Yes, I'll send her. If you don't get an email from me, get nervous.
Okay, moving on to item G, update us on discussion with property owners. Maybe you've already done that, Limerick Road, Mountain Road.
Yeah, Limerick Road property, he does not plan on moving on that property until spring, so there's no pressing need there. He said as long as I keep him updated, he'll keep me updated. I let him know that we were going to have an appraisal done, understanding that the property is probably worth well more than we're being offered to purchase it for. But he has been made aware of that, as has Mrs. Poulin on her property. She was supposed to get back to me today. She is not interested in allowing an easement to the Mountain Road. She said the reasoning for that is she doesn't want traffic entering and exiting the Mountain Road in front of her house. And she owns pretty much the majority on that front, and she's right across the street. So that was a no discussion at all on an easement to the Mountain Road. But she is going to delineate on the survey the pieces of the property that she wants to keep, and I believe it'll be a straight line where that ditch/stream is. She wants to keep the stream, and she wants to keep the pond and run in a straight line behind her barn. But once I have that from her, I will get a preliminary market analysis done on that property as well to see what would be a fair market value to offer for that property. But no, I asked her to go back home and think about it. I asked her every way I could, but her main concern is, traffic in and out on Mountain Road. It's narrow there, and she doesn't want any access to that part of the property.
Traffic there, no matter what, whether it's there or whether it's on.
I think if it's on Bergeron, it won't affect her as much, because she's that much further down, and not a lot of people have told their fridges.
That's
The
just
assumption, I guess.
like the idea of having access into his spots.
Changing your mind, but
It's her property.
absolutely. And so that's what's going on with those two pieces.
Already hinted at this, but there's a meeting with planning board to discuss some of the proposed changes to the comp plan and the zoning ordinance that the planning board is proposing. Sort of mesh those two together where possible. Maybe some other issues. Everybody's invited to that. So. Okay, next item is update on town hall survey timing, recommendations for questions to be included.
If you have any questions specifically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mail this in conjunction with the next arrow. And the reason that I'm hoping Jason didn't mean when he said the end of the month, didn't mean the end of October. Because that's too bad, I dropped the ball there. But we want to get Ryan and Will together so that we have some idea of possibly project costs in regards to both properties, preliminary costs, preliminary siting, what the building's going to look like, so that when we send out the survey, we're going to do an analysis of the current building, why we feel we need a new town hall, and the recommendations from Ryan and Will, if there's any that they feel are really needed to be out there. We'll mail that out with a questionnaire and ask people to return it within 2 weeks so we can get those. That'll be the first week of December, so the middle of December, which is well ahead of the election. We should have all of the results back, and then we can take that and move forward with it. But that's where we're at right now. If you want me to fast forward that process, I can do that, but it'll be an addition of mailing, because I was planning on mailing it in conjunction with the arrow, but I could do a separate mailing if you'd like.
What are you going to ask?
We're gonna ask, Will and Ryan are helping me out with those questions, because I don't want, I guess we're more asking where people would like, whether or not they're in favor of a town hall, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna, if I'm gonna ask how much they're willing to spend. I've gotta figure those things out as we go forward, and hopefully all of those, Tad and I are gonna sit down with Will and Ryan, because they've gone through this process before, to see what kind of questions we should ask, and then we'll bring that to you at the next meeting to try to get a consensus, because I don't wanna be too specific, obviously, but I also don't, I'd like the answers to have some weight, you know, are you interested in the town hall? Do you agree that the current town hall is in disrepair, blah, blah, blah? Are you willing to, you know, where do you define the center of town activities? Kind of questions like that, to not tell them, okay, we have these sites that are specifically into it, but leading them down the path to try to figure out what they want. I don't have any of the questions specific other than, do you agree that we need a new town hall? But we'll try to do something that will lead them down the path of determining whether or not they're willing to accept that responsibility.
And I think we gotta ask them whether they're willing to commit to spend
Yeah, exactly, X amount of dollars.
2.15 million, whatever it is,
Yeah.
so that, you know, that's the bill that's coming around. And I don't know whether we go so far as to indicate what the mill rate impact was, because we'll bond it and all that sort of stuff, so you probably, it's too soon to do that.
But wouldn't we want to be specific on, you know, like the two sites that we're looking at today? Because, I mean, to me, I think that the residents should have a say on whether they'd like to see a town hall there or like to see a town hall there. I mean, obviously, number one, it could be, number one, do you want a new town hall, and then list those two sites, and then maybe another if there's, you know, any other spot that they would like to see town hall. But I think we need to make it clear that we have an opportunity of two pieces of property to move on. And, you know, these are the two pieces of property. Here's the pros of this piece, and the cons, here's the pros and the cons of this piece, and what do you think?
Actually, we have three options, we own a piece.
Right.
True.
Correct.
True.
Which may not be completely adequate, but at least we do have it. And,
Yeah.
I think funding though is almost too soon to say that, because I mean, it depends on what we have in the reserves and what you need to bond and how you bond it and everything as far as whether it's gonna have an impact. And I think just putting out there the cost is just gonna frighten everybody to say, no, we don't want it, you know.
I almost want to see how,
How frightened they are.
if they are. I think I just,
Well, I
I
mean,
don't
you
know,
know,
if $2 million is going to scare people off.
Well, I could also do that, you know, what type of burden are you willing to place on the municipality, you know, 500 to $1 million, million to $1.5 million.
Just getting some idea, I think,
Sense
of whether
of-
they're willing.
because
It's going to impact taxes at some,
Right.
There's no way around that, I think.
and if they say, yeah, I mean, June is right around the corner, and I would tend to think that if there's if residents want it, I mean, we want them to freaking move on that, right?
Well, I don't suppose Mr. Emerson is going to want us
Yeah.
hold off marketing his property, it must be on spring.
Exactly.
I want to move to.
So, I mean, I think we would want to give as much information as possible at this point in time.
Yeah.
And let the residents.
And I'll speak to both property owners to make sure we don't disclose too much information, because, and then we can, finance it so that.
Yeah, we don't want to screw him up if we say no, and now he's, you know, nobody wants to pay him more or whatever.
We can say a property adjacent to the town garage or a property on Limerick Road.
Yeah,
We don't have to give the,
I'll hammer those out, and I'll send you drafts, just a laugh. Just, you know.
It's not going to be difficult, I think.
and we might want to say not only do you feel that the town hall is in disrepair, but also inadequate.
Yes. And invite people to come by and take a tour of the upstairs, because majority of the public are there. So.
5-7 tour upstairs.
Well, you can let them up the back through the privacy.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we tell the tall people to duck.
Okay. Okay, inform the selectmen of TIF discussion on items to be covered by TIF revenues on November 25.
Yes, at November 25th meeting, Tad will be here, and we will be discussing the CMP TIF as well as the Arundel seasonal cottage TIF, and directions that the board would like to go. With the Arundel seasonal cottages TIF, there's a potential for sewer expansions that could come with that, economic development directors that can be hired. So we'll have a list of things to present to the board at the next meeting to get a feel for which are a no-go and which are feasible. Because that, with the seasonal cottage TIF, there's a large amount of money that will go into the TIF revenue, but I wouldn't recommend bonding it all up front because of the uncertainty of the nature of a project like that, where if we say we're going to get $10 million in TIF revenue from the seasonal cottages because they're going to have 5 phases, we bond $10 million, 2 phases may come to fruition, and we're not covering that indebtedness at all. I don't want the town to get into that position. I don't think that's a wise position to be in. There's other communities that are dealing with that right now. And so that's why Tad and I want to have a kind of a frank conversation with the board to see what your comfort level is in regard to this TIF. Because there is a sizable amount of money, but I don't think it's wise to bite off more than we can chew. The market analysis from the seasonal cottage folks shows really good market penetration, really good absorption rates, but those are all theoretical. When the rubber hits the road, if we commit to too much, it'll definitely hurt the town. So those are things that we will have to consider as we move forward.
Is the seasonal cottage folks been pressing this issue still, or?
Oh yeah, they came to the EDC on Tuesday night or something like that. They've asked to sit in front of the Port Arundel Chamber of Commerce. They're very excited. They hired someone to do a market analysis. The person who did the market analysis said he was skeptical at first, didn't believe that there was really a market for this kind of a project. When they got all the numbers together and they did all their polling, apparently they feel that there's a very good chance of this going full scale to max build up. The pricing that they've selected is right on target. The number of units they have are right on target. So the marketing company, at least, you pay a marketing company to tell you that, but they would also tell you if it's not going to make it, this is what you need to do. And it sounds like it's a feasible project that will make full build up. There's 2 in Wells, one in Kenmore Court, one in Old Orchard, who have just reached full build out, and those developers are looking for more property. So he said that from what they're seeing nationwide, they look feasible. The issue right now, and Ira Camp, who's the chair of the EDC, also works at People's United Bank, is that regular lenders don't lend for these types of dwelling units because it's a seasonal. Mr. Halini said that, I think he said somewhere in 75 or 80% of the people who are purchasing these types of units are putting 50% cash down and then doing an alternative financing. So he said he's got financing lined up. It won't be with local banks because the local banks aren't willing to work on this type of project. But all the economic indicators are telling him that this is, it's a good time for this project. The question still hasn't been answered as to whether or not it can go without a TIF. I don't think that question will ever go answered. That'll be up to the town, and if the town decides not to authorize a TIF, we'll see if the project goes forward. They're very excited. They're more excited now than they were when they first started this project. Whatever they heard from, we haven't seen the market analysis. He said he would provide it to us, but whatever they saw in there made them think that this is going to go.
So, last time when they were here, we had a discussion. There were 2 things. I think, Tom, one of them you brought up was, is really a TIF good for us? Is it, and some of us don't know a whole lot about TIFs. And has any more work been done on that, or any more discussion been?
There was quite a conversation at the meeting on Tuesday night about the TIF. I can forward that PowerPoint to you so you can go over that.
But that's from them folks, right?
Well,
we were looking at a non-biased type of.
And that's what this next meeting, Tad and I have spoken to different firms that have TIF capabilities in-house. We've asked them to provide us with the resumes of their key people who do this, so that when we have this information together, we'll take what Jim and the seasonal cottage folks have given us and have them review it to make sure that it's in the best interest of the town and what it is the town should be asking for in order to gain the most from this project. On the developer's side, they'll tell you that 62% of every tax dollar that you receive in the town of Arundel from added valuation, 62 cents of each dollar goes to the state because it impacts revenue sharing, it impacts county taxes, it impacts educational assessment, not so much in Arundel because of the voting and the cost sharing, but a statewide average is 62 cents per dollar because we're sheltering those dollars. Now, we don't know, nobody knows yet what the impact of the reduction in revenue sharing. The smaller and smaller revenue sharing gets, the less of a benefit there is to the town, because revenue sharing is based on the town's valuation, as was general purpose aid to education and county taxes. So those things are all shifting as we move forward. So what we're experiencing today, 5 years down the road, might not be as great of a benefit. But we will have somebody who will present to you on the town's behalf yes or no, why we should or should not do this. And I told Jim that. I said, Jim, you do this from both sides of the fence, but right now you're working for them. So he's been very upfront with us on most things, but I said, we're not going to have somebody else review this.
And the other thing was, they had their proposal. And I know I had some concerns on the proposals, on how, some of the numbers could change a little bit, the length, or has any of that been discussed, or are we just still waiting for? We
have discussed that with Jim and Joe. They went from a 30-year to a 25-year initially and changed the percentages that were being, it was 100% for 5 years going straight to the developer. So they adjusted some of those, and that's where further adjustments will come as we get the package together of what the town would like to see used for that money, so that we can see, okay, this model isn't working, you need to go to 75% to the town, 25% to the developer for 20 years, or those are the break points we need to look at.
They still looking at that 7 million, and
That's the magic number
that's
they've
the
been
magic
looking
number.
for. And as the last proposal that they showed us, there'd be $58 million of valuation at the completion of the project. We have $58 million in additional valuation in the town of Arundel, which after that 20 years, then you start, all else remaining the same, after that 20 years, then you start losing your revenue sharing, and it'll impact you all of a sudden in year 20 because of the fact that that is no longer sheltered. So that's something else that the county is looking at. There's a whole...
Right, so longer sheltered, but now you get full tax.
That's correct. Right, the town is getting full tax,
Right.
and the state is getting full tax as well, right?
We're always getting full tax.
We were just getting half of it.
Right.
Yeah, we're giving
Half
right,
of
we're
the
giving
tax.
half of the
Yeah.
tax, right, we get to keep full.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. And so that discussion will be held in both of the TIF proposals that we have.
Okay. To approve the payroll and payable warrants.
So move.
Second?
Second?
Seconded, all in favor? Approved. And now we need to countersign the election warrant for Doris bonds, I think.
Do we need a motion to sign
I
these?
think so.
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Hesitated to
I'll make a
ask.
motion, yeah.
the voters will decide.
Dana wouldn't raise his hand.
You don't have a choice.
Can add some more business while you guys are signing that. Friday before last was the wonderful discontinued roads discussion of the
I
legislature.
thought they canceled that.
Yeah, they canceled it at 4:30 in the morning.
Yes.
I got to Augusta at 8:45, and we
I was
found out at
thinking-
9:45 that the meeting had been canceled. But there were some other town managers who were there that deal with the same, have almost the same identical issue that we're dealing with on the Curtis Road. So I got some good feedback from them on what they deal with, how they, go about doing what they're doing. The next meeting will be December 13th, and that's the last meeting
Yeah,
of the
sorry.
committee. So I don't know how much we'll get in edgewise there, but I'll try to attend
I'm
again.
missing a yellow.
Oh, Roger and I did go out to the Curtis
I
Road
was gonna
today.
ask that.
In Roger's opinion, it's in the same condition it was the last time we were out there. It's not perfect, it's not great, but Roger thought that in the 8 months it's been since we've visited that section of the Curtis Road, it doesn't appear to have deteriorated from what we could recall or what he could recall, so.
So why is there such a discrepancy between what Roger says and what?
People that want to get stuff done to it.
Yeah.
I think that might be the discrepancy.
Yeah, okay.
Two different sides of the fence on that one.
That was a dumb question.
But it didn't appear any worse to me either, but I'm not the road guy. Roger did say, we went through last time, these are the issues with the road, this is why the potholes are here, this is why they've always been here.
I delivered a few loads of gravel out that way for other folks,
Yeah.
and in the last 9 months, we'll say, I haven't seen a lot of change in the road.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. And it would take, we'd have to go to the public and ask them if they want to maintain, the town could maintain the road, but it's not in the budget. And so
They would have to go to town.
that's something we have to budget for. And
Yes, to it. Did you get it?
And when is the next meeting in Augusta?
December 13th.
All right, I would like to go, I'm available.
Well, if you're not on vacation again.
Yeah.
And you did get the invitation from the RSU that I placed on the counter in front of you? Desk in front of you?
Saturdays, right, 2 Saturdays?
Yes.
Agreed.
Is there any other business, folks? No? Go home if you like.
All right. Make a motion to adjourn. I always make the
To adjourn. Yeah. I'll second
You're a
that.
good guy.
Yeah.
Good say, all in
I'll
favor?
just have a copy of that.
We are adjourned.
All right.
I don't have these for you, so.
Like,
Is it 8?